The shortlist for the Women's Prize for Fiction 2026 has just been announced, and I'm going to be going through all 6 shortlisted books in this video, and I'm also going to let you know my thoughts. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sofie. We are now getting very deep into Women's Prize season, and I'm excited that the shortlist has now been announced. Time has honestly gone so quickly, so I haven't actually managed to read any of the books that were longlisted, but I do plan on reading all of the shortlisted books. Unfortunately, 3 of the books that I was most excited about reading have not made the shortlist, but I will also go through them later in the video. Before I get into the shortlist, please do subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you enjoy it. Also, do let me know your thoughts on the shortlist down below in the comments. So let's look at the 6 books that have been shortlisted for this year's prize. So up first is Flashlight by Suzanne Choi, and Suzanne Choi is an American novelist and she has written several other acclaimed novels. Flashlight was also Waterstone's Book of the Month for March. So this is the astonishing story of one family swept up in the tides of the 20th century, ranging from post-war Japan to suburban America and the North Korean regime. So one evening, 10-year-old Louisa and her father Cirque take a walk out on the breakwater. They are spending the summer in a coastal Japanese town, and then hours later, Louisa wakes on the beach, soaked to the skin. Her father is missing, presumably drowned, and this sudden event shatters their small family as Louisa and her American mother return to the US. Cirque's disappearance reverberates across time and space, and the mystery of what really happened that night slowly unravels. So this one does sound really intriguing to me. This, I believe, is the longest book on the shortlist, so it is over 500 pages. So I think that is going to give Suzanne Choi a lot of room to explore this narrative and give enough expanse to explore post-war Japan, suburban America, and also the North Korean regime. So I like the intrigue of this book, and I am really interested to see what actually happened to Louisa's father in this book. And I think his disappearance is likely tied up with the North Korean regime, although I don't actually have any more information about this book than I've just read to you. But I have heard really good things about this. People have really enjoyed this book, so I am interested to get into this one. Next, we have Dominion by Addie E. Citchens. Dominion is Addie E. Citchens' first novel, and she was born in Mississippi and now lives in New Orleans. And it says here that Dominion mines Black womanhood and the pervasive ills of the patriarchy through the story of the devoted wife of a Baptist minister whose adored youngest son's missteps sends the community and family into turmoil. In the town of Dominion, Mississippi, Reverend Sabre Winfrey Jr. is more than a preacher. From his pulpit at the Seven Seals Baptist Church to the airwaves of his local radio station, he exerts influence over every aspect of society. By his side is his wife Priscilla, who types up his sermons and raises their 5 sons, favouring the youngest, Wonderboy. Handsome and adored, Wonderboy is destined to carry on his father's legacy, but after a violent altercation with a stranger, Wonderboy's actions send shockwaves through the community. Told through the perspectives of the women who love these 2 men, this Morrisonian, God-troubled novel illuminates the pervasive sins of the patriarchy and the bargains women strike to survive them. So this is one of the books that I am really excited that has made it onto the shortlist, as this was one of the books on the long list that appealed to me. So I like how it's going to be focusing on this town in Missouri, and we're gonna probably look at the role that religion plays in the society, and it seems like it's very much a patriarchy and the women who have the very traditional role in this society. And it very much feels like the character of Priscilla is going to be picking up the pieces after this event happens to her son. And I thought it was quite interesting in the blurb. It said that it was told by the women that love these men. So I think that's really going to be an interesting aspect to this story. Then next, there's another book that I was excited to see on the shortlist, and this is The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. And Virginia Evans is an American novelist, and this is her debut novel. The Correspondent follows Sybil Van Antwerp, who for decades has been living her life primarily through letters, until one day a message from someone in her past turns her orderly world upside down. Every morning, Sybil Van Antwerp sits down to write letters to her brother, to her best friend, to the president of the university who will not allow her to attend a class she desperately wants to take, to her favourite authors to tell them what she thinks of the latest books, and to one person to whom she writes often yet never sends a letter. Because at 73, Sybil has used her correspondence to make sense of the world, but beyond the page she has spent the last 30 years keeping the people who love her at arm's length, until letters from someone in her past force her to examine one of the most painful periods of her life. Now Sybil must send the letter she has been writing for all these years and find forgiveness within herself in order to move on. Sybil van Antwerp's life of letters might be a very small thing, but she also might be one of the most memorable characters you will ever read, and I think that just sounds like a really lovely story. I think it's really beautiful that this main character lives her life through the written word, through letters, and perhaps she feels like she can reveal her innermost thoughts in her writing rather than saying these things to her loved ones. And I love the mystery aspect and what we're going to uncover about Sybil's past. I also think it's just lovely that we have an older lady as our main character, so a lady in her 70s, and I think that will bring kind of a different dynamic, something that I'm not really used to reading a lot about. So I'm really interested to see what is hiding in Sybil's past. Then the next shortlisted book is The Mercy Step by Marcia Hutchinson. And Marcia Hutchinson is a British writer and politician, and The Mercy Step is her first novel. So it is really good to see a lot of debut novelists have made this shortlist, which I think is amazing. So The Mercy Step is a powerful, heart-wrenching story of family, faith, and the search for freedom. Hutchinson's tender and piercingly observant debut maps the coming of age and quiet rebellion of a black girl in 1960s Britain. The story takes place in Bradford in December 1962, and a precocious Mercy makes her reluctant entrance into the world, torn from the warm embrace of her mother's womb to a chaotic household that seems to have no place for her. Her siblings do not understand her, her mother's attention is given to the church, and the entire family lives at the whims of her father's quick temper. Left to herself, Mercy finds solace in books, her imagination, and the quiet comfort of her faithful toy, Dolly. But escapism has its limits, and as the grip of family, faith, and Thea threatens to close in, Mercy learns she must act if she wants a different future, one where she is seen, heard, and her family set free. The Mercy Step is a sharply witted and tender portrait of a young girl's quiet rebellion and her refusal to be broken. So again, this one sounds like a really interesting story. So I'm really interested to see a story from the perspective of a black family in 1960s Britain. I love the fact that the main character Mercy finds solace in books, and it does feel like it's going to be quite an emotional read because Mercy seems to be left to her own devices in this chaotic family. And it feels like this dynamic at home is not a great dynamic for Mercy with her quick-tempered father and this chaos that seems to reign in her family. And I think we're also going to see a little bit how religion plays a role in this family's life, so the mother devoting her attention to the church rather than to Mercy. But Mercy does really sound like a great character, so I'm really excited to read this novel and get to know her more as a character. The next book is Kingfisher by Rosie Kelly, and Rosie Kelly is a British author, and this again is a debut novel. So the synopsis says, when a creative writing academic becomes infatuated with his colleague, the poet, it is not long before it begins to threaten his relationship with his partner, Michael. Michael is beautiful, Michael is safe, but the poet is everything he isn't. She has everything he wants. While he writes about steel and sex, she dreams about the movements of swallows. While he tends to his budding career, she writes from her big white house in the woods. As he slips between his old life and this new one, his fixation grows into something more powerful. The poet, his Kingfisher, is his sole focus. He is hypnotized. But when simultaneous illnesses threaten to destroy the precarious reality he clings to, he's forced to question what he can and cannot take from somebody. This is a novel about grief, power and desire, and the tangles in between that make up a life. So this one does sound like it's going to get a little bit messy. I think the relationships are going to get a little bit tangled up. Our main character, Michael, becomes infatuated with his colleague and then starts a relationship with her. And then I think something bad is probably going to happen. So simultaneous illnesses. And yeah, I think this is gonna probably explore a lot of those themes, so grief, power and desire. So this one does sound interesting, but I wasn't really drawn to this one as much as some of the others that are on this list. So the final book on the Women's Prize for Fiction 2026 shortlist is Heart the Lover by Lilly King. And Lilly King is an American novelist and she has had several novels published. And I think I do have one of her other books on my TBR, which I have not read yet. So Heart the Lover explores the relationships that define and sometimes derail us through the story of 3 college students and the push and pull of their interactions over the following decades. Our narrator understands good love stories, their secrets, their highs and free falls, but her greatest love story, the one she lived, never followed the rules. She was in her senior year of college when star students Sam and Yash swept her into an intoxicating world of academic fervour, rapid-fire banter and raucous card games. Their lives became quickly intertwined with friendship, but also with unpredictable passions and the imitations of first love. Decades later, she is a successful writer, living a comfortable life with her husband and children, when a surprise visit brings the past crashing into the present, forcing her to confront the decisions and deceptions of her youth. Written with the precision of poetry and the emotional tide of an epic, Heart the Lover is a celebration of literature and the lifelong echoes of young love. So this one does sound good and I think it's going to be quite an interesting read. So it seems a little bit similar to The Correspondent in some ways. So we have this character who's now living her life and she has some kind of secrets in the past. So I think there's kind of a link there between those two. And the way it's described as the precision of poetry and emotional tide of an epic, I think that does sound really exciting. And yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this one. So that's the 6 shortlisted books for the Women's Prize for Fiction 2026. And it is quite an interesting read, although there's some books that I am quite surprised to see on there. And there were some that sounded like they would be really interesting reads that haven't made it. But I'm also a little disappointed because 3 of the books that I was most excited about on the long list haven't been shortlisted. So these are actually the only books from the long list that I have physical copies of. So I was hoping that they would make the shortlist, but sadly not. The first of these is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy. And this one is, I think it's got focus on the environment. It's also described as a dystopia. And then I think it's part thriller as well. So it follows the story of this family who live on a remote island and there's a storm that's gathering force and a mysterious woman washes up on the shore and they don't think that she is telling the truth about everything. So the woman is called Rowan and she ends up stumbling across sabotage radios and recently dug graves. So she might not be the only one that's keeping a secret. So the plot for this one did sound really intriguing, so I'm really excited to read this one. Then next is The Others by Sheena Kalayil, and this was set in 1989 in Berlin, which is a period of history I'm really interested in. I studied German and German history at university, so I'm really excited to see a novel that's set in this time. And it follows 3 young people from different backgrounds who become friends and then they end up caught in the politics of East Germany. So yeah, this one sounds really intriguing to me. And then the one that I was really hoping would make the shortlist, is the one I'm most excited about, is A Beast Slinks Towards Beijing by Alice Evelyn Yang. And this is described as a dark folkloric family saga, and it just sounded like it had hints of magical realism, a little bit of horror. And it follows the main character Qianzhe, and she hasn't seen her father for a number of years since he walked out of her life. And then she gets a call from the people who live at her childhood home to say that a man is on the porch asking for her. And this is really not the father that she remembers. And it says that there's fox spirits in this, there's a jackalope, I don't know what that is, but it's some kind of beast, I'm assuming. I'm assuming that's the beast in A Beast Slinks Towards Beijing. But yeah, this one was the most intriguing to me. So yeah, I'm really sad not to see this one on the shortlist. So do let me know which books on this shortlisted you're most intrigued to pick up and if you've read any of them and what you thought. So the winner of this prize will be announced on the 11th of June. I am still hoping to do a shortlist reading vlog before the winner is announced. So first I need to get my hands on these books and then I will work through the list. Then I'm also going to be going to Women's Prize Live, which is happening on the 10th of June in London. It's an event I've been to a couple of years now and I've really enjoyed it. So there's lots of different events during the day, and then there's also the shortlist reading. So each of these authors is going to do a reading from their books, and there's going to be a Q&A about these books. So I'm really excited for that. So if you're wanting to see more about the long list for this prize, I did do a full video for the announcement, so you can find that here. And then if you would rather focus on the non-fiction prize, I also have the shortlist here. So do check those out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.